Going on, guys? Sean here, Team HHP. Beautiful day here in Northeast Texas. Got a few things going on around the shop today. Figured I'd get a little vlog in. Getting ready to go to a car show this weekend up in Denton, Texas. So getting the car ready for that. Working on a few projects. 1 sec. Trying to record and hold valve covers and shit. Oh man, yeah. Excuse the rough footage here in the shop. 3,000 square foot shop. I won't make this my official shop intro video or anything like that, but I'll be putting together a video soon for you guys at the shop and everything about it. Go ahead and sit these bad boys down. Just got back from having my aluminum fab guy get those breather bungs, -12 breather bungs welded on my valve covers for me. Putting some breathers on here. High compression engine like this calls for a nice breather system. As you can see, I have these -12 AN fittings, -12 holes. These were the length I was using for my last setup, but now with the smooth painted firewall and stuff like that, I don't want anything mounted on that firewall, so I'm gonna go ahead and I got this thing custom mounted here. So I needed a longer line, so I got 10 feet of -12 line there. It'll be cleanly ran, connected here, and sweeping up. I'm going ahead and sweep the hoses through here with the AC and heater hoses, and then it'll go under the intake, around the intake, and to the back. Be nice, clean, and discreet. So one of the first things I got to do with these valve covers, in an attempt to keep the engine bay pretty and somewhat of a show car quality, I got to mask this stuff off and recoat these welds and paint it back black. So I'm gonna get that coated, and then I gotta let that sit up for a minute, let it dry. We'll see how that comes out. So as you can see, these valve covers have a slight texture to them. So as far as painting them goes, I'm gonna give it a shot with this Crowline. It's a satin black. It's my first time trying it. I don't have any particular preference as far as why I chose this. Shit, it was on sale at Walmart. But this right here, I like SEM rubberized undercoating. I like the way this dries up in the finish this leaf. So I'm gonna start with this right here, see what it looks like, and then I might add a little bit of this to try to get it to blend with that slight texture that it has. We're gonna see how it comes out. Go ahead and let that dry. See how that looks, and then see if I need to apply that undercoat to get that final finish. All right, the satin black has had a few minutes to dry now, and as you can see, it still has pretty much a high sheen to it like it did when it was wet. This one calmed down a little bit more, but we're going after that rough finish right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with the SEM undercoat and try to blend it and see if we can get this thing to look a little better. Now, if you're fairly new to using undercoats and stuff like that, I have a tip for you guys if you want your finishes to come out looking nice and smooth, and that tip is to pretty much hold the can at least 12 inches back and just give it a nice light mist. That way it doesn't really puddle up on you and you get that real fine finish. So it'll really end up matching that. As you can see, it's already starting to look pretty good with just a light coat. That's just a light spraying. So we're gonna see what these finish up like, and hopefully they look good. All right, time to get this valve cover here on. You go ahead and start on the driver's side as far as replacing it. One thing you want to make sure of when you're setting your valve cover on the LS engine, shit, any engine for that matter, is you want to make sure that you have the valve cover gasket here properly seated in the valve cover. If you don't have this thing properly seated, you'll have a nightmare and you'll just be leaking oil everywhere, and it'll be a bad day. So make sure you get this valve cover gasket seated, and not only do you have to initially get it seated right, but you have to make sure that it stays seated right while you're installing it. So you want to go ahead and be really careful when coming past little things in the way and stuff like that. Alright. Make sure you keep that valve cover gasket seated nicely. Go ahead and start your bolts. You don't want to go ahead and you don't want to tighten down any bolts too tight before getting them all started. So you pretty much want to just go ahead, get all the bolts started, get them all ran down, finger tight, and then start torquing them down after that. You want to work your way from the inside of the valve cover to the outside of the valve cover to evenly distribute the torque and keep the valve cover gasket happy. Keep it from binding up or kinking up or anything like that. Again, you want to just make sure and check that your gasket is in place and it hasn't moved out on you. It's kind of a hard thing to make sure of, but just try to check it along the way. Alright, got that one on loose. Trying to get started on that passenger side. Alright, ready to install this passenger valve cover now. Same process as the other side. You're gonna fish it in, making sure you don't disturb the valve cover gasket there. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this one right now. Let me go ahead and reposition my gasket. Go ahead and take these bolts out. I'm gonna put these bolts in at the last minute. These bolts here on this aftermarket valve cover are a little bit different than the factory. The factory bolts won't fly out on you while installing, but these ones here, if you rotate the valve cover the wrong way, it'll just go flying out. And these are the Holley valve covers, LSX logo, slightly taller than factory, but it makes it a little bit easier to install it without them, so I'm just gonna slide it in without them. All the while making sure my gasket stayed in place. Alright. And sometimes it takes a little second to find the hole. But once you do it a few times, it's, you know, you get the hang of it. Now, on some of these LS motors, some people prefer to run like a catch can right on top of the motor right here. You'll see a catch can mounted about right here usually. And what they do is they connect the crankcase vent on the valve cover to the catch can, and then they connect the catch can to the intake manifold, so that vacuum on the intake manifold is drawing that crankcase pressure. But I'm not really a fan of that style. I like to have a style that doesn't return it back to the intake manifold. That way you just really don't run the risk of getting any oil back into that intake and you know, messing with your ignition system, causing detonation and stuff like that. The setup that I like is pretty much what I'm doing right now, where you have a separate catch can mounted, you know, wherever you want to mount it, doesn't really matter, but it's not returning that crankcase pressure back to that intake, and it's not going to allow any oil to be sucked back into that intake. A lot of times with those other types too, it just seems like they draw a lot more oil into them versus having one that just vents to atmosphere like that. So, alright, got that pretty much squared up. I'm going to do a final torque on those, and then we're going to start getting these lines ready to mock up. Throughout this process of putting the valve covers back on, you probably noticed that I never had to remove any ignition components. I didn't have to remove the coil packs. I didn't have to move the spark plug wires or anything like that. And that's because I made a custom bracket for the coil mounts, which makes it completely independent of the valve cover. A lot of the aftermarket coil pack relocation kits that I've seen out there on the market, they mount the coil pack on the top of the valve cover in a hidden location. But if you want to remove the valve cover, you still have to remove the ignition components from it. So it's kind of doesn't really make any sense to have it that way. It's really no benefit. So I went ahead and made these custom ones that allow me to completely remove the valve cover without touching the ignition components at all. And as you saw, I mean, it works perfect, and it can be serviced very easily. I could pull this valve cover off and make valve train adjustments if needed, even though LSs don't usually need that with hydraulic rollers. But if need be, I can. And yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So the next step of this operation is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to be taking this this new Dash 12 hose here, running it to length. I'm going to find the best way to route it, the cleanest way. You know, keeping in mind I don't want anything draping across the engine bay. I want anything nice and tucked and looking clean. One thing that'll make your life a whole lot easier when doing AN hoses, braided, stainless, nylon, covered, whatever. One thing to make your life way easier is having these AN hose cutters right here. Back in the days, I used to wrap my hose with electrical tape and cut it with a cutoff wheel, and that would just put a whole bunch of debris up and down the hose. And you know, you risk contaminating fuel systems or steering systems or whatever you're dealing with. You risk contaminating it when you cut it with a cutoff wheel. So to make your life much easier, I suggest you pick up a pair of these AN hose cutters right here. Make shit much more simpler. So I'm gonna go ahead and start my mock-up on the breather side. I'm going to go ahead and put the fittings on there, and then I'll be running them up to the engine and connecting them to 120-degree fittings on the valve cover. All right, trying to get this Dash 12 hose ran. Now, I can easily cut this hose in half and run it a whole lot easier, but because I'm a cheap ass, I don't want to waste any hose if I can. If I could keep from wasting hose, I will. So what I like to do is I'm gonna make each hose one by one, and basically, you know, any excess I have, I'll have the possibility to maybe make another hose one day instead of having two pieces of smaller hose hanging around. So this is my little 2 cents in game on while I'm feeding the hose through this way. A little bit harder to do, but I get to save a little bit of material. All right, so pretty much got this fed through like this. All right. As you can see, I got my 120-degree fitting back here. I'm getting ready to mark the line, and then I'll be cutting the line and then putting that hose end on there, making it fit all nice. So overall, I'm happy with it so far. This fitting here, I have starting on this side, 90-degree, and then it comes in nice and clean with the other hoses. So far, so good. All right. Just about wraps it up for the PCV install on this custom LSX. As you can see, got the Moroso catch can here, Dash 12 line sweeping up to the engine. Utilizing this sheet metal intake, it has a lot of room under it to run things, so I'm running the Dash 12 hoses beneath it, and then we are connecting in the rear. Everything came out nice. The rematch on the color on the valve cover came out nice with the undercoat. The 120-degree fittings came out real nice. I couldn't be more happier with that. Overall, my goal was just to add a PCV system under this car and have it look clean. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I was able to shed a little bit of light on PCV system on an LS engine. I know I didn't cover all types or a bunch of ins and outs, but I pretty much just wanted to show you guys, you know, how to set one up and how to be mindful of trying to keep it clean while doing it. I'm happy with the way this one came out. I want you guys to go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I got more videos coming, more shop content, more how-tos, more product reviews, and all type of stuff like that. So just leave a comment, let me know what you guys want to see, and then I'll be having a whole lot more content coming shortly. Yeah, so to the next video, see you then. Before it ends, I'm gonna give you guys a quick tour of the shop. All right, so coming up, I'll have a full video on this 1986 Grand National. It's got a custom 400 plus cubic inch Borowski engine with a F1R Pro charger. This thing is real nice. Finalizing some stuff on the ignition and wiring right now. Got that big CNC intake going on it. This here, 70 Chevelle. Got this one coming along, full build, front to back, all new everything. I'll have a full video on this one soon. Bunch of parts right here going in that thing. LSA brand new crate motor, all that. Got this 68 Chevelle. This one here I did a LS engine on already last summer, and getting ready to LSA supercharge this one and a few more things. And then we have this Chevelle over here, which I'll be putting a custom LSX stroker into as well. So just stay tuned. I'll have a ton more videos coming, a whole lot of content. Just like and subscribe. Let me know you guys out there watching, and I'll keep it coming.